David Thompson was born in an ordinary household in Raleigh, North Carolina. He was born on the 6th of September 1986. David's parents, Jack and Julia Thompson, were people of modest financial background. Jack Thompson was a cab driver and struggled to make ends meet, while his mother, Julia, was a housewife. David was the only son of his parents, and they aspired a lot about him. They did everything to support his education and maintain a standard of living so that David would not feel inferior to his friends. Since his childhood, David was a sensitive child and saw the struggles of his parents. He wanted to eliminate the poor status and become a rich and reputed person in society. Since David was from a lower background compared to his friends, he became shy. He ultimately becomes an introvert and would prefer to stay away from the people. This behavior of his led him to have very less friends in student life. He would be alone while his friends would go to parties and clubs. David never had enough money to afford such extravagances. Being reserved, David also had a hard time with girls. Since his youth, he never really had a girlfriend. Not only was he financially weak, which was one of the reasons for him being away from girls, but he was also not so good looking. This factor also kept him away. However, one thing he was good at was studies. Since he was aloof from people, he would spend most of his time with books and magazines. He was a regular reader of top business magazines and would get inspired by the stories of those who were successful in their business. He would go to the library and go to the business management section and read about the inspiring case studies. He would reflect himself in those extraordinary people. It was his only way to achieve what he aspired to do. He was good at studies, and this ability of his did not go to waste. His parents wanted to him study. They wanted him to get enrolled in the university but could not afford it. It was his father's greatest wish to see his son graduate. As he was in no position to afford the expenses of his son's education, he would always curse himself. Jack Thompson would feel it when he saw his son's friends getting enrolled in higher studies and watching David work hard to support his household. He died of a heart attack, just as David cracked a scholarship to support his higher studies. This made David even more desperate for success. He was admitted to North Carolina State University. He got enrolled in his favorite subject, business management, and performed quite well in the university. All the professors and colleagues were kind to him due to his excellence. There also were those who were jealous of him too. He incubated an idea in his student life, and soon after he graduated, he started working on it full-time. He owned a small construction company, which was growing at a good pace. One day when he was at a business expo, he saw a girl who looked quite attractive. By the time David had become a reputed businessman, even though at a small scale he was emerging, the girl looked familiar to him. While he stared at her, she approached him. She introduced herself as Emma Carter. This was a familiar name for him. She reminded him that they were batch fellows in the high school. He immediately realized her, and the two began talking. David was a changed person from the one he was in high school. He had built some confidence, and since he worked tirelessly to rank his company, he never actually thought of having a girlfriend. It was the hours-long conversation with Emma that reminded him of being a boy. Emma was a gorgeous lady with grace and charm. She had a captivating personality. The two became friends in the evening and were seen meeting quite often after this event. The two would be seen enjoying dinners, having quality time at cafes, and small out-of-town tours. They were getting closer and closer with time. It was within a few months that the two confessed their feelings for each other. Both of them were highly career-oriented and did not want to waste time. Emma, who was a marketing specialist, was now working in David's construction company too. The two decided to get married. They planned a luxury wedding and got married in the winter of 2013. They were hardworking and within a few hours progressed quite quickly. Their company grew, and they now had a good sum of money in savings. They became parents to two children, a girl named Maya and a boy named Louis. Their family was a nuclear one, with the only external visitor being Emma's little sister named Lily Carter. By the time they got married, Lily used to live with the couple, but as soon as she grew up and became independent, she moved out of the house. She also enrolled in the university to study journalism, which was her passion. Although she lived away, yet she would visit her sister quite regularly at weekends and family dinners or other parties. In 2023, a decade after their marriage, the couple had maintained an image of being a perfect one. From the outside, David's family had an enviable, successful career, a loving wife, and an expensive mansion. Even Lily would envy her sister's life. By 2023, Lily had started working in the local newspaper as a junior reporter. She would fancy the desirable life of her sister, while she would struggle to find her place in this world. Lily could not understand what was bothering her, but most certainly it was her financial situation. She planned something that would change her life forever. One evening while the family was having dinner, there was something change in Lily's behavior. After the dinner, the children went to their rooms and Emma was also not feeling well, so she went to her room too. David and Lily were left alone. David went to the lounge to watch TV. While he was busy watching, only after a few minutes Lily too came and sat alongside him on the sofa. David could not get her intentions, but he noticed something. It was Lily moving near to David. He kept silent, but when she was almost with him, he hesitantly walked out of the room. The entire night he could not sleep. He thought of what had happened that day. He could not believe that the girl who grew up in front of her would do this kind of thing. While thinking about this for hours, he opened a family picture, zooming in on Lily. This was the first time he saw Lily as not a little kid, but a grown-up girl. Lily was indeed beautiful. She was in her youth and looked far more pretty than his wife Emma, who by now was in her middle age too. David texted Lily, and the small chit-chat became an hours-long conversation via text. This series of little chit-chats began, and David would often be seen on the phone texting. Emma did not pay much attention due to two reasons. First, there was no stamina left in her after the all day long of working. Secondly, Emma knew David was texting Lily, whom he had brought up with her, and there was no reason to be suspicious. As time passed, the two of them got involved in a physical, intimate relationship. David found his previous desperations getting fulfilled in Lily, while Lily also saw financial stability in David. The two of them were expecting from each other. They would now go on secret dates and dinners. They would also book motels outside the town and visit their bar while lying about being on work tours. Little did Emma know what was cooking. While the two passionately enjoyed each other's company, Lily was the one who would often be seen as concerned, as she was relatively not so mature. She would always worry about Emma finding out about their relationship. David would convince her that Emma would never find out about their relationship, and that he would make sure it remained a secret, and the two would carry their activities on. Emma would usually be busy at work. She had a healthy relationship with David, and the two would often go on dates with each other. They, regardless of being married for almost a decade, tried to maintain the spark in their marriage, and would frequently get engaged in healthy sexual activities too. In short, their life was going pretty normal. It was in May 2023 when Emma started noticing something strange. It was about David. David had become distant. He would spend most of the time on the field and be away from the house more frequently, sometimes even for days. Another strange thing that she noticed was the drifting away of David from her. Their dates had become less frequent, and their intimate activities decreased. At first, Emma thought it was because of the increased workload, but even on weekends, David would refrain from such activities when she got suspicious about something being wrong. She became a keen observer and would notice everything in David now. One day, while the family was at the dinner table, she noticed something that would raise her suspicion even more. She noticed eye contact between her husband and her sister. This was not mere eye contact. It was something beyond that. The two lovers noticed Emma's eyes on them and looked away as if nothing had happened. But Emma had gotten her point, but she did not have any evidence to prove it. She also did not want to ruin the relationships on mere suspicion. However, with time, David's irregular behavior was something she could not ignore anymore. David would excuse himself whenever he would receive a call. He became more and more secretive. Emma wanted, but could not confront David. At last, one day when the family was gathered for dinner and Lily was at the Thompsons in the bedroom while David was away, she discovered a text that had failed to delete on David's phone. It was from Lily and stated, "Can't wait to see you tonight. We need to talk about Emma too." This was it, the final blow. Her heart shattered into pieces after she was betrayed by the people whom she loved the most, the closest people to her heart. It was a shocking and disgusting thought of her husband and her sister having a relationship. It broke her. She kept quiet for a few days, but this silence was eating her up from the inside. She was suffering from unbearable pain, and at last she confronted David. She told him about the messages between him and Lily. David denied any such allegations. Emma produced the proof of her chats from her phone, but he would not accept it. Emma pressed him, which ultimately led to a fight between them. David accused her of snooping. Lily, however, remained unaware of the situation while David continued everything as normal. It was the 14th of June 2023, just a few days after David and Emma's fight. David had called Lily at their family-owned cabin in the woods outside Raleigh. David had arrived sooner and was waiting for Lily to arrive. He had also brought a bottle of wine with him and had packed dinner from a fancy restaurant. He waited for a while, but without wasting any more time, he started setting the table up. He placed the food on the table with the bottle of wine and lit a scented candle. He was in full mood to have a quality time. After a while, Lily arrived. While the two were having dinner, David noticed something strange in her behavior. She was caught up in the thoughts throughout the evening. It was as if something was bothering her. She was not mentally present there. Even after their intimacy while they lay in bed, David saw her daydreaming. It seemed like their relationship had strained. David softly held her in his arms and asked the reason. She at first denied any such thing that was bothering her. But when David took her into confidence, she confessed. She told David that it did not feel good, keeping this a secret from Emma. She stressed letting Emma know about their relationship. She wanted to come clean to Emma as the guilt was consuming her. David was startled at listening to this. He asked her if she was in her senses. He felt if this happened, his whole career and family would fall apart. It will not only destroy his marriage and reputation, but everything he has built. Lily kept silent for a few days, but she could not take it more. She started ignoring David's texts and calls, and started avoiding coming to their house either. She felt disgraced while cheating on her sister with her husband, and facing Emma as if nothing had happened. David confronted her, but Lily insisted that Emma deserved to know the truth. David could not let it happen at any cost. It was now David who suffered too. While Emma and Lily were suffering from mental tensions, it was finally the time for David to think over certain decisions too. He got furious about Lily, that she might one day confess everything to her sister. He suffered from countless nights of sleeplessness. He was afraid if Emma found out about his relationship, his life would be destroyed. After facing severe anxiety, the issues started taking a toll on his mental health. He became insecure about almost everything. He could not focus on his work. His family life was already disturbed. It was 30th June, the day when he received a text from Lily. She stated that she would confess everything to Emma and that she could not carry the burden of such a filthy secret anymore. It was the last nail in the coffin. David tried to stop her. He called her, but she declined. He did it again and again several times before she picked the call up. David wanted to buy some time. He asked Lily to meet him in the cabin by the woods. Lily denied, but he begged her and asked her to give him one chance and that he would make things right. Lily at first disagreed, but when David begged her, she accepted. It was July 1st, 2023. David was waiting in the cabin for Lily to come. She arrived a few minutes past 7:00 p.m. David welcomed her warmly and hugged her. He also tried to kiss her, but Lily drifted away. The two sat on the couch. Lily was in a state of despair. David wanted to cheer her up, but she looked in no mood for fun today. She had developed dark circles around her eyes, portraying that she might not have slept properly for days. Lily was quiet for a long time. She spoke after an hour, and all she said was that she wanted to end this relationship. David was startled at this. He tried to comfort her and convince her, but this time she was in no mood for any such thing. She was constantly denying any such suggestions made by David. She had made up her mind and was insistent that she would break up with David. The conversation turned into an argument and took heat in a while. Lily, being suppressed by the arguments of David, lost her control and slapped David in the face. She was crying when she did that. She told David one last time that this had ended and picked her purse up to go away. She said, "It's over, David." David tried to stop her, but she would not. She pushed David away, and just as she reached the door, she felt a thud. It was David who had hit her in the back of her head with a wrench from a nearby workbench. He hit her with full force that blood started flowing off her head, and she fell on the ground. In just a few minutes, she was dead. David did not intend to kill her. He went into a deep shock. After an hour, when his senses came back, he found no other way than to hide the body somewhere. It was a stormy and rainy night. David disposed of her body by burying it in the ground nearby. He also covered it up with leaves and dirt. He cleaned the blood off the floor and wall of the cabin. He burnt his clothes, washed away all the stains of blood, and drove back home. Emma was worried for her sister since she had not heard from her in days. She tried to get connected with her again and again but failed. At last, feeling desperate, she filed a report with the police. The police, acting on Emma's concerns, encircled David as their prime suspect. They did a thorough search of his phone and through recovery extracted all the texts and call details exchanged between David and Lily. The police also traced the CCTV footage and other relevant evidence. It was not hard for them to find the body from the ground near the cabin. The police now had enough evidence against David to charge him for the murder. The case was highlighted by the media and gathered great attention. The jury listened to the arguments from both sides. Both of the sides defended impressively, but at last, the evidence was enough to prove David guilty. In November 2023, the court announced its verdict, sentencing David to a lifetime in prison, with no possibility of parole. Emma, destroyed by the death of her beloved sister and the betrayal by her husband, felt devastated. She tried to gather the pieces of her shattered life, and along with her daughter, shifted to another city, far away from the dark past. If you like this story, please do hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to get updates about the latest crime stories. Stay tuned for the next video.